Hello, my name is Sheppard, and I am currently a senior at Stuart Country Day School. I am so thrilled to be presenting at Lead Like a Girl today to discuss my STEM project. I created a virtual reality program that simulates the dissection of a frog so that students will be able to further their studies of anatomy and biology in a humane, sanitary, and cost-efficient way. In this STEM talk, I will discuss the engineering design process, what the program is, how I designed the program, aspects of the program I hope to expand upon in the future, and how I believe this program could increase the ability of students across the nation to learn anatomy and biology. So the engineering design process. There are 4 aspects of the engineering design process that I'm going to focus on in my talk today: idea and research, the creation, improvements and testing. It goes the other way around, testing and improvements. And so first I'm going to discuss my idea and the research that followed. The first step in any design process is the idea. I had my idea for this project last May when I began signing up for my senior course schedule. I had always wanted to take anatomy, and it was the first thing I put on my course list. I was so excited to partake in the staple fetal pig and sheep's brain dissections. But when I was talking to my friends, I noticed that their enthusiasm did not match mine. Whether it be the dissecting of a dead animal, or the smell, or the overall experience, they were not willing to participate or were very hesitant to participate in any sort of dissections, which would then hinder their ability to recollect certain anatomical parts of the animal on future tests, and overall it really impacted how they were learning about the animals that we dissected in class. And so I thought that a virtual reality dissection would be the best way to simulate a real dissection without the dead animal and the smell and the overall experience that so many of my classmates were uncomfortable with. So in order to design this virtual reality project, I started to do research into the best applications and programs that would be suitable for my design. And I came across Unity, which is a fairly well-known application that is mostly used for VR design and game design for video games, especially those really intricate video games that try and make it seem like you're actually there. So over the summer, I began researching Unity and researching the anatomy of a frog, and I taught myself how to use Unity. So, research. As I mentioned previously, I created a virtual reality program that simulates the dissection of a frog so that the research of the anatomy and biology of different animals will be sanitary, humane, and cost efficient. According to lcanimal.org, over 6 million animals, primarily rats, frogs, and fetal pigs, are killed and used in dissections every year in the United States alone. I found this to be a staggering statistic. And so I would hope that with the introduction of a virtual reality alternative, less animals would need to be killed for research within classrooms. I found that via animallearn.org that the purchasing of frog specimens and sufficient supplies alone for one class can cost upwards of $3,700. And so many schools in the United States simply do not have the resources to purchase animals for dissection, and many children will miss out on the valuable hands-on anatomical learning experiences and opportunities. And so I wanted to make sure that my program would be accessible, and that whether it be an experiential disconnect in that a student does not want to participate within a dissection, or if the school itself does not have the resources to purchase animals for dissections, that every student in a biology or anatomy class would be able to learn about anatomy of different animals in a very real and interactive way. All right, so my create. The second step of the engineering design process is to create. After watching hours of Unity tutorials and studying the anatomy of a frog, I began to design the figure for my virtual reality project. I discussed before that a major part of my design process was researching just how to use the computer application Unity. Unity is a very complex and sophisticated programming application, most often used by app and game developers, that includes anything and everything a software engineer could ever want. Unfortunately, that made it very difficult to navigate Unity as a novice, and so I spent the majority of my time watching hours of Unity tutorials, researching syllabi for undergraduate and graduate classes for tips on how to use Unity as a beginner, as well as sample code. Most of the syllabi actually were just how to make a ball roll within Unity, and even that required extensive code. So over the last 8 months, I've encountered many challenges in the creative process. But one of the first challenges I encountered was designing the preliminary figure of the frog. So creating the frog took up the majority of my time, as it was imperative to me that the frog was accurate. This program would not be useful if it was inaccurate in any way, as it's supposed to be used as a learning tool. So I really focused on making sure that every organ, every bone, every part of my frog was accurate. And so on this slide, I've attached 3 screenshots of my frog figure within Unity, and then 1 screenshot of just a short section of the list of bones within the frog figure. My frog figure includes a comprehensive replication of a frog's skeletal, digestive, and cardiovascular and reproductive systems. Every bone and organ within the frog is labeled, and a section of the list is included. The frog figure that I made consists of 126 individual bones and organs. So, testing. The fourth step of the engineering process is to test. And so, as I mentioned before, I researched tutorials, syllabi, and as well as external resources. So one of the most influential resources for me were my mentors, both here at Stuart and then outside of Stuart. I have a friend who's very close who had worked previously in Unity, and she was very helpful in this process. Oh, no, I don't know how to. Okay, I don't know why it went out. I don't know where to go. All right, I don't. Where's that?
On the left. To the left. Up in the corner.
Okay.
That?
No, from current slide, go down.
Oh, yes, thank you. All right. All right, so the future. So the last step of the engineering design process is to improve. So my next steps are to code hand gesture recognition, in that you will be able to move your hand and it will slice open the frog or different parts of the frog, depending on where your hand is. I hope to program the figures for more animals so that there is a more diverse experience and more options for students to learn about the different anatomies of different animals. My next step would most likely to do either a rat or a mouse or a fetal pig, as those are the most commonly used within schools. And then ultimately, many years in the future probably, I would hope that this technology would be able to use to simulate surgeries for medical students, so that it can be more accessible, as cadavers are very hard to come by. And it would be a way to practice surgeries before they have to actually operate on real people. So, thank you for listening. Are there any questions?
So, you learned Unity. Do you feel empowered now to go create a game?
A little bit. All of the examples on the Unity website astound me. Like the little snippets of game that people have created, it's incredible. I have no idea the amount of hours and time that it must have taken them. But yeah, maybe creating a game would be a fun thing to try out over the summer.
I'm really curious as to how you found if you could tell us a little bit more about Unity, and did your friend, I'm just curious, you said your good friend knows Unity, is that what
Yeah.
kind of
So my good friend, her name is Izzy Engel. So she went to Stuart, graduated from Stuart 2 years ago, and she actually designed for her STEM project. She created a VR program to help kids learn chemistry, so that they could see the bonding of molecules in a way that was 3D and interactive. So for students where a sheet of paper or a worksheet wasn't sufficient in teaching them how molecules bonded together. And so she's at Stevens currently, but every once in a while I would call her and I'd be like, I don't know how to do this. And she would help guide me. She was the one who suggested Unity for this project.
That's great, because Thomas Edison did not invent the light bulb alone.
No.
So it's great to rely on that.
So going by your title, it's
Yes.
definitely more humane and clean.
Yes.
What was the licensing cost for this Unity application? If you want to put that in
Oh,
the classroom, what would that be?
So the licensing costs, I'm not sure of off the top of my head. Students are able to use Unity as long as they do not use it in a commercial fashion. If you do use it commercially, you then have to discuss that with Unity. But as long as there's a discussion where you let them know that you're either going to sell the product or put the product on the App Store to be free, they're fairly reasonable, as it's used by many, many companies.
Just a suggestion, because you talked earlier about $3,700 per classroom.
Yes.
If you could get an idea and say, well, I could bring this into your school for
Mhm.
$2,000 a classroom.
Yeah.
It would be part of your research going forward.
Yeah. Ultimately, I hope for it to be on phones so that it could actually be downloaded by students rather than entering with like all of my things or having a specific company that does that to bring it into classrooms, so that it would be much more accessible for students to even maybe practice at home or study for a test.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.